At 4:10 on a grey afternoon, a young man was escorted out of Windsor. He was part of Camilla's family, and Princess Anne stood close enough to see all of it. She did not step in, she did not soften it, she gave one small nod and let it happen. And honestly, when Anne of all people watches a thing like that and says nothing, you already know the bigger story has nothing to do with one afternoon. Somewhere in a Windsor office that same week, a household guest list had a single name quietly taken off it. Hold on to that detail. It tells you everything about where this ends. To understand why William would draw a line this hard, you have to go back, not to last month, to the 1990s. Back then, Camilla was the most disliked woman in Britain. The papers tore into her every single day. People blamed her for breaking the marriage the whole country had watched begin. And the young woman at the center of that broken marriage was Diana, loved by millions. Photographed everywhere and quietly coming apart inside a palace that never once protected her. If you watch that interview in 1995, you remember her face when she said there were 3 of us in this marriage. You did not need an expert to explain it, you felt it. And the third person, the name nobody said at dinner, was Camilla. Diana described her marriage as crowded. Everyone knew exactly what she meant. William knew too. He was a boy watching his mother's pain play out on the front pages. Now here is the detail that never leaves you. Diana died in August 1997. William was 15, and the world watched a teenage boy walk behind his mother's coffin through silent streets. He did not cry on camera. He did not speak. He just walked. He was 15. He buried his mother. He said nothing. Honestly, that image never left this country, and it never left him. Somewhere in that grief, a quiet rule started forming in the boy. Windsor was never theirs. The people who hurt his mother would never own the place his family did. Now look, we cannot prove what a grieving boy promised himself. None of us were in his head, but what is documented is what he did with that grief over the next 28 years. It was patient, it was cold, and it was aimed. Because the boy who said nothing in 1997 grew into the man now deciding who walks through Windsor's gates. And he was only getting started. Now here is where this stops being old family grief and turns into something colder and far more deliberate. William has never been loud about his plans. That is the point. He works the way Anne works, quietly. And then suddenly it is done. For years he has wanted a smaller monarchy, fewer faces on the balcony, fewer hangers-on, a tight core built around service, not on relatives who arrived by marriage, and he proved how far he would go with his own uncle. When Andrew became a disaster, the family could not survive. William reportedly pushed hard and fast. By late 2025, Andrew had lost his titles. Honestly, think about that. If William will move against a prince-born royal, a non-royal grandchild is not a hard call. It is barely a call at all. And this is where Anne matters more than people realise. Anne dated Andrew Parker Bowles years before he ever married Camilla. That is on the record. So when Camilla married Andrew and later drifted toward Charles, Anne watched the whole arrangement from a closer seat than most of us ever knew. She has known these players for 50 years. And that history is part of why her silence at Windsor landed so hard. None of this happened by accident. Inside the household, sources describe a quiet review of who truly belongs in the future court. Call it the Hearthstone Review, a slow audit of every name attached to the family by marriage instead of by blood. The signs were already there. Camilla's 2 children were not at Sandringham for Christmas in 2025. Tom Parker Bowles confirmed it himself. And here is the part most channels leave out. Beatrice and Eugenie were there. Andrew's own daughters got a seat at the table, even after their father's fall. Camilla's children got nothing. So when the palace said the gathering was family only, it seems they meant Windsor blood. Not Camilla's side. Camilla won the crown. Her grandchildren inherited the door. Now, obviously, we cannot confirm every conversation inside that household. Palace reviews do not come with press releases, but the pattern in public is impossible to miss. One Christmas they were welcomed, the next they were simply gone. Windsor was never theirs, and slowly, carefully, they were being told exactly that. And then came the afternoon at the gate when the quiet rule finally became a visible act. Here is how that afternoon reportedly unfolded. Earlier that week, a name was quietly removed from a Windsor household list. No announcement, just a line, gone. Then, on the day itself, a young man from Camilla's family arrived expecting the access the old rules had always given him. At 4:10, security walked him to the gate. Not rudely, not loudly, just firmly. The way an institution closes a door it has already decided to close. A household coordinator in the Prince's private office, a man named Marcus Veal, reportedly handled the arrangements without any drama at all. To the staff, it looked routine. To anyone who understood royal symbols, it was anything but. The name came off, the gate stayed shut. Anne nodded, and that nod is the moment people keep coming back to. At 4:02, before the young man even reached the gate, Anne was already across the courtyard. She did not raise her voice. She did not lift a hand to stop it. She gave one short nod, the smallest gesture a person can make, and then she walked back toward her own engagements. Now look, we cannot say that nod meant approval with total certainty. A nod is a small thing. But this is Anne. Anne does not waste gestures, and in this family, the smallest move from the most disciplined person in it is never an accident. According to one version going around among household staff, Anne later said something close to 5 words. The institution comes first, always. Whether she said it in that exact shape or not, honestly, it sounds like every public thing she has stood for across 50 years. And Camilla? Reportedly, she was not told in advance. She found out the way the rest of us find things out, after they were already done. For a woman who climbed from the most hated name in Britain all the way to a crown, that has to land hard. She built her own place at the centre over decades, but she could never build one for her family that did not depend entirely on Charles. A makeover can lift one woman. It cannot adopt a whole family. And here is the part most people expect to go differently. You assume Charles steps in. This is the man who insisted Camilla be crowned beside him, the man who waited decades to make her queen. Surely he protects her family. He said nothing. No statement, no correction, no quiet word to his son. The king who spent his whole life defending Camilla's place let this one pass in silence. Maybe he was too tired. Maybe he agreed. Maybe at 77 and managing his own health, he has decided the future belongs to William now, and he will not fight it. Now, none of this has been confirmed by the palace, and it never will be. These things never are, and royal gossip has a way of hardening into accepted truth long before anyone checks it. But what is on the record is plain. Camilla was crowned in May 2023. Her children skipped Sandringham at Christmas. Her grandchildren's place was always tied to one man's reign, and that reign is ending. So this is where it leaves us. A monarchy turning a page. A future king who learned at 15 exactly what palace politics can cost a family, and who is now writing the rules himself. Camilla rose further than anyone thought possible. That was always her story, and only hers. The crown could lift her. It was never going to inherit her family. Windsor was never theirs. And honestly, the boy who walked behind that coffin in 1997 has grown into the man who decides who walks through the gate now. Tell me in the comments, where were you when you heard the news in August 1997? Some of you have carried that morning for almost 30 years. I think a lot of you already know exactly how this story ends.